Okay, it's just about 12:30, so we can go ahead and get started at this point. Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Rose Rita. I'm the Marketing and Operations Manager here at CloudStrategies. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today and welcome you to the Cloud Economics How You Save Money webinar. Today's format will be a combination of a comprehensive overview highlighting the business value of the cloud, as well as a live demo showing you firsthand some of the features of the cloud. And we have a very seasoned team of presenters today who include the following. We have Howard Cohen, who has over 30 years of IT channel executive experience, and Howard has served on many key vendor partner councils, including Apple, HP, IBM, and NEC Service Advisory Councils, and he's also a U.S. board member of the International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners. So Howard will provide us with a comprehensive overview of the cloud, and Mark Gordon will provide us with a demo of some of the features of the cloud. Mark Gordon is our Director of Architecture and Strategic Offerings, and Mark is a key member of our team and also an expert in cloud computing. He works very closely with our sales organization as well as our delivery team. And Mark has been applying technology solutions to business opportunities and challenges for over 18 years. So he's designed, developed, implemented collaborative platforms and applications for companies of all sizes. And some of the companies have included Eli Lilly, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Sallie Mae, and EDS. And again, Mark will cover some of the value definitions of the cloud as he provides us with a demo. So together, Mark and Howard will lead today's session, which we hope that you will find to be informative and of great value. So throughout the session, we really do encourage you to participate and ask questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type your questions in the IM chat box, or you can also unmute your line and ask. Okay, so we really do encourage your participation because that helps us to kind of modify our session to meet your specific needs. And before we get started, I also kind of wanted to let you know that we will be recording this webcast, and it will eventually be housed on our website for future reference. Okay, and then immediately following today's session, I will be following up with each of you with an email message, just in case you have any questions, if there was anything that you think of after the fact, or if you would like to be put in touch with a CloudStrategies representative, you will have the opportunity to do so at that time. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Howard so that we can go ahead and get started. Howard?
Thank you, Rose. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar on how to save money with cloud computing. I'm going to launch right into that. Cloud computing proposes to achieve the impossible. Usually when you get better service, you expect to pay more. For inferior service, you expect to pay less. And yet with cloud computing, you get increased service levels at decreased prices. Today we're going to focus specifically on the reduced costs involved in cloud computing and what can be achieved. Now, saving money, costing less, those are easy phrases to throw about. We're going to break this down into item by item, and we're going to use a cost-cutting checklist to help us do that. What I'm going to do is take you through this checklist and talk about the different ways in which cloud computing saves you money right up front and on an ongoing basis as well. So when we're done, my colleague Mark Gordon is going to show you this checklist real world. He's going to take you through an exercise in which we will look at an existing client, their current state of IT, how much they're paying, what it's costing them. We'll then compare and contrast that with what it would cost them if they adopted a cloud strategy and show you how significant the savings can be. So stay with us, and I think you'll see very clearly how you save money using cloud computing. The first item on our checklist is the economies of scale. Let me tell you exactly what I mean by that. In a classic environment, the building on the left is your building. We'll get to the building on the right. In the old days, or even now, you have servers in your building. Those servers may be running applications. They may be facilitating communications. They may be simply helping you file information and print information. They have a variety of different tasks and functions. At a given point several years ago, some data center operators suggested that it would be better to move that server to their data center instead, and then simply connect it using either leased long lines or secured internet connections. Well, here's the problem. No matter how you slice it, that server is going to cost you. If you purchase it, you've purchased it. If it's sitting in a data center, you're renting space on it, or you're renting it, and you're still paying for it. One way or the other, you're paying for that server. Your costs have not decreased. And as a matter of fact, your costs have increased because of the connection between the two. Back when this started, those costs were very high. Today they're lower, but still significant. And so just to move a server over there doesn't really pay. At a given point, somebody thought up the idea of using a larger server, one that could accommodate multiple tenants the way an apartment building accommodates multiple tenants. So now, instead of just your company using that entire server and paying for that entire server, many companies can connect into that server and share it, each one paying for a slice, a fraction of that server. So when you switch to cloud computing, you're now paying for a fraction of the facility needed to operate your IT. When you purchase cloud-based services, they're running on a piece of equipment that's shared by many, many users, all secured from each other, but again, a multi-tenant environment where you're sharing the core resources. This achieves an economy of scale that you couldn't achieve otherwise. Now, of course, once you're starting to use services and servers that are located at somebody else's data center, you no longer need them at yours. So the next time your servers or your storage go end of life, the next time it's time to replace them, you won't. You'll simply not purchase new servers or purchase new storage. Slowly but surely, as they reach end of life, you'll retire each of those pieces of equipment, and you'll never have to invest capital in buying them again. You'll simply use similar equipment that's being managed by a cloud provider. Now, of course, if you aren't purchasing servers and you aren't purchasing storage devices, you don't really need any place to put them. Right now, you probably have a facility that looks somewhat like this, cabinets full of equipment, cables running everywhere. This all has to be maintained, and this all has to fit into some kind of space. For smaller companies, perhaps it's a closet. For larger companies, it can be an entire building or more. So that space slowly but surely diminishes until finally you need very little space to house whatever equipment is left for you. Your IT operations are then migrated to a data center like this. This one happens to be the Microsoft data center. It's a brand new data center in Dublin. And the economies of scale they're achieving are remarkable. We'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. But it's a big change. When you don't have equipment to purchase, you don't have to put it anywhere either. You also don't have to worry about securing your physical plant. You know, most people, when we talk about data security and network security, the first word that they think of is firewall. And firewall is an important piece of equipment, as are intrusion protection systems and authentication systems that take in your name and password and let you in. You know, those electronic security devices are very important. But where a lot of people have fallen short is that network closet or that network room or that data center is poorly secured physically. There's no lock on the door. Now, I'm not suggesting something as severe as this, but we've done plenty of discovery projects where we find that while the electronic security is terrific, the physical security is non-existent. You won't have to worry about that any longer. You will not have to worry about people breaking into your facility or somehow gaining access to your data or your equipment. That goes away too. Let's get more fundamental. When you have servers and storage equipment, you have to power them, and that costs. As a matter of fact, your typical server costs about $400 per year to operate, just for electricity. Never mind the space and everything else. Now, multiply that by the number of servers you have in your organization, and you can see another significant cost. The other cost, the more insidious cost, of course, is the cost to the environment. And here we talk about the sustainability achieved using cloud computing. If you don't have equipment that you're not powering, that reduces your carbon footprint. Well, the good news is that data center we just saw in Dublin, they've reduced their carbon footprint as well. As a matter of fact, Microsoft, as a company, is number 3 on the EPA's Green Power list. Number 3, only behind Intel and Kohl's department store chain. They've achieved a power usage effectiveness rating of 1.125. Now, let's put that in context. The industry average is 2, and the industry goal is 1. So in a very short time, Microsoft has been able to reduce their impact on the environment significantly, and they're continuing to do more. So we're going double green. You're reducing your carbon footprint. Microsoft is reducing theirs and achieving greatly increased sustainability. Another sustainability contribution is air conditioning. When you have servers and storage devices, they need to cool. They need to be kept at a reasonable temperature. Matter of fact, that cost is $344 per year, above and beyond the $400 you're spending to power the equipment. So really, your typical server costs, on average, about $750 a year to run. The calculation, by the way, is 86% of the cost of power is probably your cost to cool. Then, of course, maintenance. If you don't have servers and you don't have storage, you don't have to pay for annual maintenance contracts to protect those servers or that storage. This can significantly reduce your operating costs depending upon where you've been obtaining your service and how often you've needed service. Along with that, of course, system support personnel. In a small company, the real challenge is how to find and hire, administer, and manage and support technical personnel. IT is not what you do for a living, so it's not likely that you have the skills required to properly select and manage personnel. In larger organizations, there are significant-sized IT organizations growing up, and those companies can look forward to repurposing those individuals and putting them onto assignments that are far more productive, far more innovative. So again, reducing the cost of personnel simply to keep things going. Then, of course, there are the hidden costs, like the cost, for example, of forgetting to do your data backup. Now, I don't know how many of you are willing to raise your hand to that, but most companies do have challenges. Most companies forget to rotate their tapes or rotate their media. Most companies do forget from time to time to make sure that the backup did actually run. And even more important, over time, as the equipment ages, will that backup even restore? Older equipment goes out of alignment. It becomes impossible to read the media, and data backup is useless. Once you move into the cloud, things like data backup and antivirus and anti-spam and anti-malware all become worries that are shifted from you to the cloud provider. And you don't have to worry about them anymore. So you will be paying for them. Of course, you do end up with one monthly cloud expense that covers all of the things we've been talking about. And it is significantly less than the aggregate of all those costs, as we're about to see in just a moment. But even that one monthly cloud expense can also be reduced. You can reduce your one monthly cloud expense in several ways. One of the nice things about the cloud is that it is elastic, or it has elasticity. That means you can throttle up your capacities and throttle down your capacities as they're needed. When you purchase a new server, you typically double the storage capacity of that server. That's a lot of wasted space. If you had 2 terabytes in your old server, you now have 4 terabytes of space. That unused 2 terabytes that you just added will be wasted until over time you finally start to utilize it. With the cloud, you provision just a little more than you're currently managing. And when you see it raise up, you provision more. So you're never paying for much more than you use. and you can throttle up during high demand. You can throttle down during low demand. You can add and remove users and services as you need to. That elasticity means you're in control of your spend. Finally, there's the breadth of services that are available in the cloud. You know, the Microsoft services alone range from the productivity tools you use every day, things like email, things like word processing, spreadsheets, presentations, to the full Microsoft Dynamics CRM, customer relationship management. Now you can marshal all the information about all of your customers. You can determine how you want to reach new prospects. You can track your outreach. You can track your marketing campaigns. And you can continue to collect the history of everything you've ever done with a customer. The more you know about a customer, the easier it is to sell to that customer. So Microsoft Dynamics CRM Online is a very exciting opportunity because you don't have to make a major decision to implement it for your entire company. You can instead pilot it in a small group, and if it works out well, continue to expand. And if it doesn't, regroup, figure it out, and continue later. Windows Intune adds a management dimension to all of this. It adds security. It adds the ability to manage right down to the desktop. It also provides you with enhanced Windows capabilities that you can upgrade to, and all in all, completely reduces your cost of management of your IT infrastructure. So with all of these savings available to us, it's time to revisit our cloud cost-cutting checklist. You notice we've added a couple of columns now. We're going to take a look at the current state. We're going to take a look at what it would look like in the cloud state, and then we're going to calculate our savings. To do that, we're going to use some real-world savings examples that have occurred due to the interaction with the experts from CloudStrategies. What you're going to see is a demonstration of one of the tools we've been using, one of the tools we can use and work with you on figuring out your current state, what it would cost to transition to a cloud environment, and then just how much you'd save. To take you through that, I'd like to introduce Mark Gordon. Mark?
Thank you very much, Howard. Really appreciate it. And I think it was a great overview and sort of survey of what the cloud is, how it affects costs, and how you can begin to take advantage of some of the new features and benefits of the cloud. We're not going to talk so much today about the features and benefits and new capabilities that you can bring to your business in the cloud. That's a separate discussion that we have in another webinar and really deserves its own space and time. And they want to just acknowledge that there are tremendous benefits and new capabilities that come along for the ride. Really today we're just focusing on the cost and the cost savings. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a process that we go through with customers, with companies that are evaluating the cloud, who want to get a real-world idea of what the costs would be in their environment. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Hopefully somebody will let me know when that's come across and is working.
Okay, Mark, we can see it now.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So Microsoft has developed a tool along with Piedmont Consultants that is really a framework for evaluating the costs of implementing collaboration. And the two comparisons they give here, or the comparison they give here is between implementing an on-premise solution and implementing a cloud solution. This tool can be as detailed or as simple as you like. We're going to go through it not in the most granular detail, but we're going to take a fairly simple scenario and we're going to work through that, kind of show you the kinds of things that the tool measures, allows you to include in your analysis, cost analysis, and the kind of output it gives you to help you build your business case for how you want to proceed. So the first thing we start off with the tool here, we put in the company name. And this company's in the United States. They could be global. Actually, the business case starts to get even better when they're global. We do a lot of global companies. We're going to do this analysis in U.S. dollars. This company happens to be on a select agreement with Microsoft, which is pretty standard, but we can choose any licensing from Microsoft we want. And for the sake of this scenario, we're going to say that this company has 1,000 people. We work with companies larger than that. We work with companies smaller than that. That's somewhere in the middle of the size that we work with. So we're going to say that for the sake we have 1,000 people in this company. And we're going to come down. We're going to make this very simple. We're going to say that this company has 1,000 people, and really all we're going to analyze here is just the cost of building an Exchange system on premise versus moving that Exchange infrastructure to the cloud, moving those services to the cloud instead of providing them yourself. You see here we have the opportunity to look at some of the plans that Microsoft has that includes SharePoint and Lync and some of the other features and services that they have. This tool allows us to do very detailed analysis of buying Office locally versus subscribing to Office through 365. There's a lot of options and capabilities. For the sake of today, we're just going to keep this very simple. It's going to say that we're going through 1,000 people either building a new Exchange server on premise or putting that into the cloud. So we could do a hybrid here if we wanted to. We could say that we're buying a new company and we're going to be adding 1,000 users to our existing company, and we could say, well, some of those we're going to keep on our existing servers, but some of the new people we're going to build into the cloud. We could break up that here if we choose to. Anyway, kind of giving us the services and the distribution of users that we're going to have be basing this on. That's the first part of this. At that point, we go into some basic kind of inputs. How much are you paying for maintenance, hardware maintenance, on an annual basis? And that's an interesting thing. I'm going to see if I make this a little bigger here. See if that's any better for people to read. So we're saying that average here is about 12%. This customer's telling me they have 10% that they pay on an annual basis. Hardware maintenance costs. Their refresh cycle is 3 years. Generally, they pay about, we'll put in this customer said they have to pay $2,000 a year for the data center. This customer said they're actually hosting their servers in an off-site data center. $2,000 a year is pretty low, actually. And we're going to say that they have annual cost fully burdened for their IT administrators of $80,000. Kind of low, but we're going to be conservative here. And they pay $120 an hour for professional services. These are all calculations we'll see, inputs we'll see later. And here we say they're basic. And this just kind of gives us an idea of how automated their data center and their IT operations are. Currently, they're on Exchange 2003. And so we've kind of given the basic inputs. Well, right away, based on that, if we want to just go use industry averages, we can look at the results. And let's go to the results now so you kind of get an idea of where we're heading. We'll go back and look at some of the details once we see what the results look like. So if we just take the industry averages, we're going to wind up with some results here. And the results will tell us what we expect to pay in hardware to provide that service for 1,000 people on an annual basis here. It also will tell us what we expect to pay for software and services and operations for the on-premise environment as well as for the Office 365, the cloud environment. And this is all real time, so here we said we have a refresh cycle of 3 years. If the customer comes and says, the company says, well, yeah, actually we refresh every 4 years, we would change this to a 4-year refresh here. And I think you see that the results just update automatically. So we have the ability to manage that. It's all very much real time. So once we have all that, we can come down here and we can begin to look at the TCO cost comparisons. And we have a very high number here for hardware. We're going to go in and look and see why that number is so high, but we have a very high number. I suspect that's because we're trying to provide the same amount of storage that you would get if you went to the cloud, and the customer might not really be willing to provide that much if they didn't go to the cloud. So we'll see if we can reduce that number a bit. And we also see that the ongoing costs are even higher. Even after I purchased that hardware in the first year, my ongoing costs are still higher to operate the hardware I've purchased locally. Well, let's go and see where those numbers come from, validate, see if that really works for you. Cumulative costs we see over time. And then down here at the bottom, we also have the 3- and 6-year TCO. Shows us where all of those buckets are, operations and deployment. We actually can see the, exactly what categories these things are. Very helpful for budgeting. So just wanted to give you an idea of what we're going to get as a result and what the output's going to look like. Not that these numbers are done yet, but let's come in here. We're going to actually go in and look a little more detail at the numbers. So here's what we've said we were going to be offering on premise. We said we were going to be giving people about a 10 gig mailbox and a 25 gig 10 gig mailbox and a 25 gig archive. And archive is something that replaces PSTs in your environment, allows you to actually have online PSTs, if you will, so you can get at them from anywhere. New feature Exchange 2010. It's Office 365. Email is Exchange 2010. It's just you don't have to host it. So let's say that the company says, wow, I know that's what I would get more than that in Office 365, but realistically, if I were going to do this myself, I would really only give people a 5 gig mailbox. And I would have to limit them to a 10 gig archive. So we can say, okay, that's great. We can change that and look at the results after we do that, and we'll come back to the results here, and we see that that reduced our hardware costs significantly. We were over $700,000 before, and now we're actually took a couple $100,000 off just by limiting the space that we would provide locally. We can drill in here and look at some other things as well. If we wanted to, we could drill in and say, well, the normal cost for a server is $8,600 for a mailbox server, and for 1,000 users, I'd want to have 2 of those, so I could have a hot spare there. Let's say I actually can get those a little cheaper. I can get those for $7,400. And if I put that number in, it's going to actually put my actual hardware cost in, and I could actually change the number of servers that I was going to have here. If I really didn't want any redundancy, I could reduce this down to 1. Probably not a good idea, but you could do that. And we could change the type of storage that we're going to have here. We're doing direct attached storage. Direct attached storage is usually the cheapest, but let's say this company actually is doing SAN. And that's going to change the cost just a little bit. Probably going to do direct attached storage, but let's say they're going to do a little bit cheaper storage on their archives. They're not going to do full RAID 10. So we can come back here and kind of look at exactly what it is, what the costs are for the servers, exactly what the storage cost is going to be. We can put in the cost per gig here, whatever your actual costs are. We go back and now we see that those numbers have changed a little bit again. There's other pieces we can put in here that we have hardware, we have third-party services. This is a very interesting piece. So today that company is, they told me they're spending $50,000 for voicemail and unified messaging. Then they say, well, you know what? Let's take that out. We're really not going to be doing that. But we do have our clustering solution that we have to put in. And that actually does cost us quite a bit per year to maintain that and have people operate that. We do have an archiving solution that we're using today to do archiving for legal hold, and we do have some costs for there. They put in the cost for whatever that is. Oh yeah, today we are actually using a third-party antivirus, anti-spam. We put the costs in for that, and we're just putting whatever your actual costs are here. And we do actually have some disaster recovery today. It won't be as good as what's in Office 365, but we do have some disaster recovery, and that's actually fairly expensive. So we put in the actual reporting and monitoring. We actually have some monitoring tools we have to buy maintenance on, and they're a few $1,000s a year. We pay for that. And whatever these costs are that are the things that you need to have around your environment, these are all things that are included in Office 365. So if you're doing that on premise, you may or may not have these things, but there's a place to put them in. We can go look at operations. Operations, let's say we have, they say for 1,000 people you have 0.68 administrators, and we put in $80,000. You say, yeah. Honestly, I really do have somebody, because I have to maintain all of those pieces and the compliance and everything. It's for about 3/4 of a person that I assign to that. So we'll change that number a little bit. The help desk costs, utilities and space for those servers, all those things we can work in. We have same thing for deployment, and then the Microsoft software and services. You can actually put in our actual costs for those servers. And you can actually go to and actually enter your specific prices if you can get them from your account reseller or directly from Microsoft or wherever you get those. We can put your actual prices in here. What's going to come in here without that is just list price. So after we go through all that, we'll come up with an actual number, and you'll see it's by year. There's the ongoing costs. There's the initial startup costs. And we go through and we have some input for the on-premise piece. I'm going to do the same. Don't really want to bore you, but do the same for Office 365. In this particular case, we're not going to need any Exchange servers. We're not going to need any storage because that's all in Microsoft's cloud. We do have some third-party. Let's see what we have on third-party here. You know what? We're really not going to be. We took that out. So companies decided that we're not doing unified messaging or voicemail through email in this particular case. We'll take that out. But let's, for some reason, say that they actually do have a compliance solution they'll need to keep in here. And I think let's say we put in $5,000 for that. On the other side, we have to put that in here as well. Third-party software and services, third-party networking charges, we no longer have that because we're no longer having to write on somebody else's network. Our customers, our users, simply go directly to the Microsoft data center, so we don't have to provide any VPN or anything like that. Those costs are gone. We have the Microsoft costs here. Nice thing about these Microsoft costs is they're very easy to predict. This price actually just went down, so I think it's $380 now. Microsoft just did a price reduction, so we'll actually include the price reduction here and go back. And so we have 1,000 users on that Exchange Plan 1. We know exactly what that's going to be. I can get that as part of our contract with Microsoft if we want. So now we have our costs for on-premise. So now we've gone back and actually looked at this, and because of the price reduction at Microsoft, and I think because there were some things that were being provided by Microsoft that we had to buy on an annual basis for ourselves, we've actually seen that the cost of Office 365 came down just a little bit. Whatever you want to do here, this really isn't that you have to use these particular numbers. This is just one scenario. honestly, this is a pretty typical scenario. It's a very simple scenario. We only covered just the exchange piece itself. So we have the ability now to take this. What we normally do is we work with a company, show you what's in Office 365, make sure that the services would fit for you, make sure that it's a good move for you from a technology and business perspective. At that point, once we've kind of done that first decision, say, yeah, is this going to really be a fit for us? Even if it makes sense financially, does it work for us? So we usually go through that, make sure that we have a clear runway if the finances do work at a high level to move forward. At that point, we'll be very happy. We usually like to schedule some time with you and your financial people, somebody that understands IT finances and can begin to help answer some of these questions about your costs for the different services and components of your exchange environment or whatever environment we're talking about. Usually we'll send you a questionnaire ahead of time that you fill out and can kind of be prepared for what you're going to need to have. We'll import that questionnaire that'll answer some of these questions to start off. Usually spend about 90 minutes walking through this tool with you the first time. At that point, you can go away and kind of have an understanding of maybe there were some things we hadn't thought about there. You want to do a little more research on your costs or make some decisions about how you would implement things now that you understand fully all the different cost levers in there, both on-premise and in the cloud, as some of the new features you have may be able to implement and what those would cost you. So usually go away, let you have a week or so, whatever it takes for you to understand those numbers and really make some decisions and refine your approach. Come back together and put together a draft of this that we can then present you a report. And we actually just, the tool is awesome, creates a spreadsheet, or sorry, a PowerPoint presentation that has all of this information at a high level with some drill down, allows you to see this information. At that point, you can take it back to your governing body or a CFO or whoever's going to be making that financial decision. If they start to ask you some questions about, well, where did these numbers come from and how did you get here, you really have a framework that backs that up. And if they question you on it or say, hey, you know, this I don't like this assumption you made here, very easy to go in and just change that and get a new, in real time, a new framework, based on the framework, a new calculation here. So it's a great way to have a discussion with somebody who's going to be making a purchase decision on price. Don't always have to do this. Sometimes it becomes very apparent to companies that because of the new capabilities that are available in Office 365, because of the fact that one of the things that's a real big deal for a lot of companies is the ability to have redundancy and not have to do disaster recovery. A lot of companies are looking at that going, gosh, I already know the costs of having to do a really good disaster recovery plan, and I already know what that is. I don't need to go through this process because I already know just there's an order of magnitude change that I don't want to have to go through to have the kind of environment that I'm going to get in Office 365. Don't need to go through this process, but if you do have somebody who wants to have some financial backing for your decision, this can be a great way of going about it. So Howard, I think I'm going to turn it back to you to close and see if we have any questions or comments we want to follow up with.
Thank you, Mark. As we're returning to my screen, I think the most important thing to point out, the biggest takeaway from this presentation should be that there really has been no technology discussion at all throughout this presentation. Everything Mark talked about was financial in nature. And moving to the cloud is a very important financial strategy. It's a very important savings strategy, which is why we chose to start this series by talking about how you save money in the cloud. It is probably the topic that comes up most often when people talk about the cloud. So we invite you to reach out to our experts here at CloudStrategies to help you project your savings. I mentioned this is the first in a series of webinars we'll be giving during the course of this year. We hope that you'll join us again for the other sessions that are coming up over the next several months, including how to make the decision not only to transition, but what to transition and when, how to create a completely cloud-based office that gives your people maximum agility, maximum flexibility, a talk about how secure the cloud really is and how in many ways it's more secure than having your data on your premises, how mobility fits in with the cloud, how do you carry the cloud around in the palm of your hand, mobile devices and bring your own device, the consumerization of computing are all very exciting topics that we'll be talking about in future sessions, as well as your cloud and your customers. We'll be talking about customer relationship management and the importance of managing your cloud environment, your IT environment. If you have any ideas for sessions that you'd love to see coming from CloudStrategies, please do email those to us. And at the same time, we'd love to have your feedback about this session. Was it the right business level? Was it the right technology level? Was it quick enough, too quick, too slow? Any feedback you can give us about this session that will help us make them more useful to you as we go along would be very much appreciated. With that, I'll open the floor to any questions. Just unmute yourself and join in. I see one person unmuted.
We're happy to answer your questions in the chat window as well.
Correct. Yeah, feel free to type them in, and we'll be glad to discuss them. Meanwhile, let me put up the contact information for CloudStrategies. You can reach us by phone or by email very easily. We hope that you'll visit cloudstrategies.net and sign up for our newsletter, which comes out monthly. Thank you. Thank you very much. If there are no questions, then Rose, I guess I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, great. Actually, it looks like we may be getting one more question here. But in the meantime, if not, then like I mentioned earlier, I will be following up with each of you with an email message after today's session. So again, if you do think of any questions after the fact, we will be happy to put you in touch with the CloudStrategies representative. So there are actually some questions here as to upcoming technical presentations and all. And what we will do is we'll provide you with dates for our upcoming sessions so that you'll have exact dates, and we'll also provide you with some registration information as well. So we plan on having a webinar on a monthly basis moving forward. And again, I will get more details out to each of you regarding our upcoming sessions. Okay, so okay, looks like we have another question here. Can the cost analysis spreadsheet be found somewhere?
Yeah, that's a tool that Microsoft provides to the Office 365 partner community. So we're happy to work with you and get you started on that tool.
Okay. Any further questions? Can the PowerPoint be made available to download from the link client? Mark?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay.
I just did it.
Perfect.
So there's a little paper clip up there in your client. You should be able to click on that. And if you can't, let us know. But I just changed that to available to the entire audience. So everybody should be able to download that now.
Excellent. Any further questions? It looks like there's one more. Paperclip isn't working.
So, Rose, can we do email for those that aren't able to get that through the...
Yeah, that's fine. So, Anthony, I'll go ahead and I will send you a copy of the presentation. Okay, if there's anybody else having issues, please let me know. Sure, no problem. Okay, great. So, if there are no further questions, I'd like to thank you all. Thank you, Mark and Howard, for the presentation today, and thank you all for joining us. And as Howard mentioned, we do have an upcoming series of webinars, and we'll get more information to you regarding dates and registration. And I also wanted to let you know that for your participation today, we will be providing you with a Starbucks e-gift card to show our appreciation for your participation. So you can expect to receive that in your email as well. So again, if there are no further questions, then thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you will join us again for our upcoming webinar series. And on behalf of CloudStrategies, again, thank you very much for joining us.